Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're going over Gaming News Consolidated. This is 2 weeks. This is March 9th through the 22nd. And basically what I do is I go over videos, go over articles, consolidate it all in one place for you, generally every week, but this last vacation that I had was pretty busy, some good and some bad stuff going on, and so yeah, I just didn't have time to do it last week, so yeah, getting a double whammy. And yeah, there is a lot of stuff. This is the most pages I've had for any one of these podcasts. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff here. And yeah, I expect probably an hour and a half would be my guess. So yeah, strap in. You can always like, sub, all that jazz if you enjoy the content. There's multiple contents too. If you want to see what else is on the channel, Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube, you can always use the playlist as well. But hey, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about some games that are going to be delayed, some other games that were announced. We're also going to talk about Tencent buying some more shares of a company. We're going to talk about another movie coming out that maybe is going to kind of compete or rival with Helldivers movie. We got a patch coming out for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We got CoPilot coming to gaming. Boy, that was quite interesting. Play Anywhere is now getting pretty big. I remember when it started fairly small, but yeah, it's growing pretty rapidly. And that's definitely one of the benefits for Xbox, is basically where you buy a game and now you can play it wherever you want instead of having to buy multiple copies of the game, which is really nice. We also got to talk about Cronos, New Dawn. This is actually a game you guys voted for me to review this year. And yeah, it does look like we actually are going to be getting it later this year. We got our first diary for them, which is great. Also shows something really interesting with Microsoft on a blog post. Looks like Game Pass and the Xbox library and Steam OS are actually going to be married to some degree. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows and if it is really kind of saving Ubisoft or not. And then also PSSR 2.0. I want to set some things straight with that, because some people are saying that basically PSSR for PlayStation is over. And no, that is not the case. So you can like, sub, all that jazz again, and do share the content if you enjoy it. But hey, let's get started. So Sony has won the bid for the Resident Evil movie reboot. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, okay? Sony makes some pretty good movies, but they've made some pretty bad ones too. But more or less, it's the Sony studio that's actually doing the movie, and it's Columbia Pictures. Now, the reason I'm not overly excited about this is because they did Morbius, Yeah, they did Morbius, Madam Web, and Craven. All three of these movies have bombed pretty hard, and these movies have come out in the last, 2 to 3 years. And again, none of them have really done very good. The director is the one that did the Barbarian movie. If anyone's seen that, that one was actually liked a little bit better. And yeah, most actually seem to have enjoyed that. But we do actually have a release date for the Resident Evil movie reboot, and I do think it's going to take place more off of Leon instead of actually taking a look at the universe of Resident Evil. I think this is going to play more into the specific stories of the characters we already know with the franchise, because they've been doing the reboots, right? We know they did Resident Evil 2, we also know they did Resident Evil 4, and we know they're currently working on another Resident Evil, which I'm guessing is probably number 5. That would be my guess. That would be probably a pretty good one to do. But yeah, again, we'll have to wait and see for them to actually announce it. But the movie for Resident Evil will be coming out September 18th, 2026. So we basically have a year and a half to wait until this movie is actually out. Of course, too, it can get delayed at that point and all that jazz. But I am a little worried that Columbia Pictures is actually doing the movie. Now, the difference is that Morbius, Madam Web, and Craven, they were all live action. And I'm actually not sure if Resident Evil movie reboot is actually live action. It might be voice acting with CGI kind of a thing, and I think, again, that would be better. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that works out. And if I can, I'll watch it and let you guys know what I think. Death Stranding 2 has a release date, June 26th for this year. I've actually seen some people starting to play Death Stranding 1, whether on the Xbox or whether on PlayStation Time Tracker, and also on Steam. It's gotten a little bit of a bump. So people are wanting to play the game maybe for the first time or revisit it a little bit before Death Stranding 2 actually comes out. Again, you got a few months until then, but there's some other games coming out too. So Yeah, it'll be pretty good. The thing that I do definitely want to notice is that the trailer will be in the description down below in the video if you actually want to watch that. And it's a pretty long one too, as most of them are. But no matter the edition that you buy, even the collector's edition, there is no physical copy. So here we go again. Okay, we have Avowed, that was one of them, and we also had Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now I expect Death Stranding 2 to be a much better game than both of those games. Again, I don't think it's going to be the type of game for everybody, but we'll see how they change the game mechanics, if anything at all. We'll see how they expand the story and where exactly it's going to be. It sounds like it's going to be back in the States. So I don't know. I think this will actually be kind of interesting to see the story. But I do think it sucks that, again, there isn't going to be a physical copy. Now, something I'm going to check into, I just haven't had time, but I'm actually going to go to GameStop to see if you can just pre-order a physical copy of the game, and then I will let you guys know if that's actually a possibility. But yeah, I think it sucks. I mean, again, for the amount of money that you're shelling out, it's cool you get a statue and some other stuff based off of Death Stranding in the collector's edition. But still, we don't have a physical copy. Like, you get a code. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And I definitely think we're going to get to a point where there's going to be less and less games, whether on PlayStation or Xbox or even Nintendo at this point eventually, down the road, maybe within, starting in the 2030s, as they are heading this way, where there's just more copies that are so digitally over physical. And this includes Nintendo. They crossed the barrier last year with 51%. Being digital, over 49% being physical sales. So even Nintendo is in this boat now, and while there's less incentive and it is cost saving too for the companies, they all want us to basically get away from physical copies so that they can better control everything for the market and make it more profitable for them. That's really what the thing is. And then too, like, even with physical copies, it's still not a surefire thing, because you still got to be hooked up to the internet. You still got to have the servers running that are ran and controlled by the company, because they don't allow you to run your own servers like you could back in the day. And there's other things too. So yeah, the whole thing is just frustrating no matter which way you look at it. But yeah, I think that sucks. It's just another example of, again, just not having a physical copy with your 200 plus edition for your collector's edition. I think that sucks. Let's talk about Tencent. So they're actually buying more shares of Katakawa. Now, I have to make a correction here. I said back when Sony was looking at buying Katakawa, and they just wanted to buy pieces of it, and Katakawa said, no, you have to buy all of us in order to make a sale, which I think was over $4 billion. And Sony said basically, nope, we don't have that money right now, which, kind of they do, but it wouldn't be a safe bet because they'd have to take over the liabilities as well. And we know how that's gone for them this decade so far in the 2020s. Hasn't turned out very well, unfortunately. And but yeah, one of the things that I said was that Tencent actually had 10% in a stake of Katakawa, just like Sony did. And that is not the case. I actually stand corrected on that. Tencent. So yeah, the articles that I read, which there were two of them, they were both incorrect, and I took their word for it. And so that's a mistake on my part. I apologize for that. But Tencent, after their purchases recently, now puts them at roughly 8% of Katakawa. So Sony is still ahead by a couple 2%. And but yeah, they're just buying more shares. And I really think this is ahead of what Katakawa is going to be doing with From Software, because again, they have Night Rain coming up in May, and it makes sense to actually buy that ahead of time, as there will probably be some more people buying in the shares a little bit to make the price go up, and then too, if the game is also super successful, they'll definitely make money off of that as well. So it's a smart decision on Tencent's part, and they usually have their money just about everywhere. But yeah, when you see them actually purchasing shares like this ahead of a game release, it probably shows that there's good faith that the game is actually going to sell well. But yeah, I just think it's interesting. Tencent is just shoving in more money, trying to capture more of that profit. And control, too. We'll also see, as we'll get into this, we'll see what they do with Ubisoft, because Assassin's Creed Shadows is out right now. And it's pretty good. Okay, some people like it, some people don't. But it's fine. there's what most people are saying, but yeah, we'll get into that later toward the end. RoboCop is actually doing an expansion. This is a standalone expansion for the game. The game I saw was actually really cheap for like $8, so I picked it up a couple of weeks ago, and I'll be taking a look at that. But yeah, they're getting a standalone expansion for the game. And yeah, RoboCop, the game, they did so good. They got enough sales from it. It wasn't a huge budget either, so it was easier, I would say, to make some money. But yeah, they did a good job of representing the game, making it a first-person shooter, and making the levels and stuff. And so the standalone expansion is going to be focused on like what looks like a higher-end gang or a mercenary group taking over the ICP headquarters, and that is going to be the entire expansion called Unfinished Business. So that sounds interesting. Looks like it's going to play off the original story of the game. And so, yeah, you'll definitely want to finish that story probably before picking up the standalone expansion if you're interested. And yeah, I'm kind of curious about that myself. So very rarely have we seen some kind of smaller games take an old IP that's been around and actually do a really good job with it. Again, I just finished Lies of P finally. I'm waiting for Overture, the DLC for that coming later this year. And yeah, Lies of P was really well done. And then RoboCop, I've heard it was pretty well done too for what it was. So I'm curious to check that out too eventually. But yeah, the standalone expansion, that's kind of curious. We weren't expecting that whatsoever. Same with Lies of P too. We weren't really expecting a DLC. They did have an Easter egg in there toward the end, which I thought was cool, and I wonder if Overture will play into that. We'll have to see. Let's talk about Killing Floor 3. So this is unfortunately delayed. The closed beta did not go well. Lots of complaints about the game, also performance issues as well. So yeah, it's not going over great. The devs know that they messed up and that they missed the mark, and so they're purposefully delaying it to make changes and to work on fixing the game. So this is how you keep your audience, folks. I mean, I wish more studios understood this as well as publishers, because sometimes the devs say, hey, we need more time, and the publisher says, no way. Nope, we're releasing it today. And I think that sucks, because I think you kind of burn your audience. You burn probably one of your biggest platforms, which is PC in most cases, for performance issues. But yeah, the closed beta did not go well. So yeah, they understand they need to fix things. They're thankful for the feedback. They're delaying this. We don't know exactly for how long. Just, for a while. We'll probably get an update from them next month in April, would be my guess. But yeah, this is how you keep your customers. You take the feedback, you take the criticism, actually make your game for your customers, make your story for your customers, and have characters and gameplay to engage with that your customers want, right? You're not making a game for everybody. And I wish BioWare, Ubisoft, EA, and Activision Blizzard and others would understand this. It's like you're not just shoving stuff out there to make money. That's not how you make money. You make money by creating something, by nurturing your IPs, and by, hearing what your audience has to say. Because the ones that are getting into the closed betas, the ones that are excited for stuff, that are keeping up with your Discord servers and stuff, publishers, they are really your fan base. They're excited for it. They want your game to do well. And again, when they give you feedback, you should take that into consideration, of course. And I'm glad that the devs and publisher of Killing Floor 3 is actually doing that. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, they're getting a really big patch. 1.2 is what they're getting, and it has 34 pages of patch notes. So yeah, it's huge. We're going to have fixes. There's going to be also looks like a haircut and a barber mode that's going to be put in there, and also some other stuff as well. Later down the line, we also know there's going to be 3 DLCs coming later. These will also be paid DLCs, and we're probably going to have another complete edition, just like we did with Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, where you're going to be able to get all of the DLCs and the base game all together. And that's kind of what I'm waiting for, actually. Just to save a little bit of money on that. We also will be getting a hardcore mode, as if it wasn't hardcore enough. That will also be coming later, too, with one of the DLCs. So yeah, the game is going strong. They've sold a ton of money, made a ton of money, sold a ton of copies. And yeah, they're doing great. It's actually still played quite a bit on Steam. It's still played quite a bit on PlayStation Time Tracker. I think it's in the top 25 on PlayStation Time Tracker in the last 7 days out of 100. So yeah, it's still staying up there, and people are enjoying the game. And again, it's just understanding and knowing your audience, and then improving some things and giving what your audience wants, instead of trying to casualize the game and and then it just starts to feel like everything else. And I feel like some IPs have certainly done that. It's going to be really hard to get that to to undo that. You're really going to have to show something special. Let's talk about YouTube. So they're starting Premium Lite. We know we have a subscription service. Basically, you're supposed to completely take out all of the commercials or ads, and also add some other benefits in there too, but really for just getting rid of the ads. Though in some cases you still have those to a degree, but again, generally speaking, those are all gone. Well, they're going to create a new subscription service called Premium Lite. This is going to be $8 a month, and apparently Premium is too expensive. Basically, quote, they're not seeing growth. And so they need to be doing something else to get more growth in there, to have more people subscribing. So they're creating a new, smaller, weaker, cheaper tier to actually see if people can get in. And yeah, $8 is what it's going to be, which honestly, yeah, that is pretty cheap. That's basically a cup of coffee at Starbucks, if we're honest at this point. Now, Lite won't have all of the features that Premium does, of course, which the Premium tier is $14 a month. But like most of the vids will be ad-free. Music videos won't, shorts won't, and also browsed videos. Like if you're kind of specifically looking for something, they're also going to target you with ads on that one to a degree. And yeah, the vids won't be able to be played offline or in the background like you can with the best premium version or subscription. But ultimately, you'll be put in a different queue for algorithm for less ads, which is kind of nice. Maybe it'll be cut by half. Maybe you won't really see them at all. That's what they're touting anyway, but yeah, we'll have to see actually how that works out. But for if any of you are actually subscribed to Premium, would that make you switch to save a little bit of money, or would you rather just keep Premium, or just have you just not interested whatsoever? That's where I'm at. I just watch the ads. I just skip them when I can and just move on with my video. It is a lot of time. I would probably be surprised how many ads there are, and the time that I sit there waiting for them to go away or skip them. But most of the time, it's just 5 seconds. That's not a big deal. Let's move on. Xbox handheld rumors. So these are rumors, by the way. These are not confirmed by Microsoft. The only thing we know for sure by Microsoft is, yes, there are multiple prototypes being made. Yes, it has been greenlit by Microsoft, and yeah, these are coming at some point. Now, some people think they're coming this year. Some people think they're coming in 26. None of this is really confirmed. We'll have to see. But it is interesting that with the Xbox handheld, we do have a greenlit premium console successor to the Series X. So there for sure is going to be a Series X-like model that is going to be coming toward the end of this decade at some point. And then alongside that, there's also going to be a handheld, which is very curious. So I think kind of the handheld in a way is going to take place of the Series S. And so we're going to have a handheld, which is cheaper, and then which is probably going to be stream, right? You're probably going to mainly be streaming stuff through your library, whether with Play Air Anywhere or Game Pass or whatever else. And then you're going to have this like premium console version. So again, I kind of wonder if that's also going to make the price go up on the console version. Maybe instead of $500, now maybe we're looking at $600 or $700. It is supposed to be the biggest generational leap ever for a console, but I feel like that's more on the software AI side than anything else. If they could basically, build me $1,000 console to run natively at 4K at 60 frames, I would probably buy it. I probably would. And knowing I would hold on to that for 8 to 10 years, and that's just what I would purchase. Because I want to be able to run the hardware. I want to be able to run the games natively instead of having FSR or PSSR or whatever else is out there, Even Nintendo at this point is working on some type of an upscaler. And unfortunately, I just think that's kind of the future. But we do know that we are going to have a premium console for Xbox next generation alongside with a, quote, Xbox handheld. So, yeah, I think this is going to be really interesting. We also know there's going to be several new controller options. Again, we're not quite sure what that's going to look like. My guess is that there's going to be a universal standard controller, an Elite 3, and then maybe something else, maybe some kind of a backbone, maybe kind of different versions of the handheld. Maybe they're including the handheld as a controller itself. Who knows? I'm not really sure. So yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. It does look like this is going to be set for the release at the end of 2027. That is the insider assumption right now at this point, unconfirmed. And yeah, we won't talk about this too often until there's actually real information. Same with like next gen for the Switch 2. I mean, we're going to have an announcement in February 2nd. Or April 2nd, excuse me. That's really not that far away. And same with PlayStation and whatever else. I mean, I just like to have the actual hard data here to talk about instead of just rumors all the time, which I feel like is what some channels have really switched to in the last couple of years. Because, yeah, it gets views and that's exciting, but, when they talk about the same stuff over and over, it's just like, man, that's kind of a waste of my time. So, anyway. But yeah, they're currently, finished with the APU along with Sony as well. They're done with their APU idea, basically their motherboard, and now they need to, craft everything else with it, make sure that the games are ready. But like all of this has to sync at an appropriate time. You have to have launch titles. You have to have the OS and software built in. You have to have the features built in. You have to make sure your library is compatible, because that's definitely, I think, needs to be a guaranteed thing now. Because as soon as one of them doesn't have it, people are going to be frustrated, and they're going to, just out of spite, maybe switch to the other console. So I feel like that's part of the race now, which is nice, because, yeah, of course, we want to be able to bring our entire library over, but I feel like PlayStation is falling behind on that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Because yeah, I think there's going to continue to be a lot of news and rumors coming out until this stuff actually releases, until we actually see announcements from Microsoft and from PlayStation 2. So. Yeah, next gen I think is going to be very, very interesting, and I will be tracking that here on the channel. Next, let's talk about Space Marine 3. It's been announced. Again, no release date. Let's not get too excited. This is still going to be done by Saber Interactive, which is wonderful. I feel like they did a pretty good job with Space Marine 2 with what I saw so far. I did actually pick up a physical copy. I already have it installed. I just need some time to actually play it. And, yeah. So I'm going to be taking a look at that. I'll do at least my initial look. I'll take some time to play it as well, because the campaign doesn't seem too big. And then I'll dig into some of the other modes too. But yeah, we just need some good story games, and we're finally getting some of those. And yeah, Saber Interactive did a wonderful job. It got high scores as well, which was nice. And it had microtransactions maybe to a degree, but like the whole, quote, battle pass, you could basically just work through and get for free, which was, again, wonderful. And they're still supporting their game. And then now we have Space Marine 3. So they definitely made enough money. They sold millions of copies. I don't have an updated number for you guys, but I'm guessing we're probably looking at, 4 or 5 million, maybe even 6 at this point. But yeah, with Space Marine 3, dude, I'm stoked. I think it's great. I hope the campaign is bigger. I hope they take broader time with it, and that they actually release everything at once. Especially if it has multiplayer aspects to it. I think that would be better. Or simply just make new maps on top of it. Kind of have like a set of base maps and then release later maps in later iterations as DLC or for free, whatever. Wouldn't really matter to me too much. But yeah, the campaign for Space Marine 1 way back in the day was really, really short. And then having the Space Marine 2 campaign, again, was pretty short. And yeah, just kind of want a longer campaign for some of this stuff. If I'm done in 5 hours, 6 hours, it's okay. But again, it's hard to pay that $70 price tag as well at this point. I mean, that's some hefty price tag there. Let's talk about Starship Troopers. So we know Helldivers was basically inspired by Starship Troopers, very reminiscent of that, right? Kill the bugs, all that. It's been a blast of a game. And Helldivers is also getting a movie. We know that too. We've talked about that here on the channel before, even starting last year. Now, Starship Troopers is getting a movie. It's currently in the works. Don't know if it's a reboot. Don't know if it's an iteration or a complete standalone all by itself. We don't exactly know a lot of information on this. I'm kind of guessing it's a reboot. I hope they kind of stick to the quirkiness, the corniness, of Starship Troopers and have it be a satire film. I think that would be great because that's entirely how Helldivers is. That's as a game and hopefully a movie as well. And that's how the original Starship Troopers movie is also. So yeah, I hope they keep it that way and have it be a satire. But I don't know. We'll kind of see. So both of these movies are in the works, Helldivers and Starship Troopers. Kind of some competition there. I hope they're both good. I would love to see them both when they actually come out. But boy, if they're a letdown, man, I'm going to be pissed. That's going to be very, very frustrating. But yeah, when I'm able, we'll be doing those adaptions to actually see if they're a blast. There also is a Star Trooper. Excuse me. It's just hard to say that for whatever reason. But yeah, Starship Troopers. There actually is a game out for $50 right now, but again, I'm waiting for a sale closer to like $20 or less so that I can actually try it. But it is also a multiplayer co-op game, so that does look interesting. Let's talk about CoPilot for gaming. Microsoft actually worked on announcing this. Boy, I definitely got some thoughts, but let's talk about what it is first. So Microsoft announced this. This is something that basically helps players in games. You can ask for help, and basically it can lay out stuff for you or talk to you. No, it's not going to be like Cortana, but maybe a type of version of it, but it's basically CoPilot for video games. And the idea is to help you basically get tips or help you get past something or kind of a little bit of a walkthrough or help you do better, do some analysis for you. Maybe a different type of class, analyze the maps a little bit if it's a multiplayer game or gear or whatever to actually help you get through something. And this would basically be for every single game. This is not just like a particular type of game or genre or a specific set of games. This is literally CoPilot for gaming on Xbox. So, and if cheats are enabled, CoPilot can continue to just give you perfectly straight answers, just like a strategy guide way back in the day. But if you don't have cheats enabled, CoPilot will understand that and say, look, they can't help you cheat in the game, right? Or they can't give you direct answers to a degree. They want you to still kind of like play and engage a little bit. But just like CoPilot, just like ChatGPT, whatever, and Gemini, etc., there's probably ways around that to a degree, but also to maintain the feature of CoPilot for gaming. I don't know. It just feels like there's kind of something there on my shoulder just watching me play, watching me, and I'm sure that already happens already, but I just watched iRobot, and that just kind of what it makes me think of a little bit. It's just like, how much integration do we really want with AI in our gaming? And that kind of worries me a little bit. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. I can see this being used when needed. Some people, of course, will use it a bunch, and other people will use it very little, and others probably won't really use it at all. So the community will definitely be split on this. I know that some people, they get really stuck and they need some help. CoPilot will be great for that, but there's also strategy guides out there. There's walkthroughs, there's playthroughs, there's other guides by Kotaku and IGN and all of these others, right? And so this is where I really think it's going to be interesting is when this gets implemented and when it becomes more of a staple on the gaming side. And if Xbox makes one, I'm sure Steam is maybe going to work on one. I'm sure Sony's going to work on one, and maybe even Nintendo too at some point in the next decade. So, yeah, this could get really interesting. But when this kind of AI on your shoulder, so to speak, kind of gets to be a main staple, I think it's going to be interesting how it's going to affect and influence the rest of the guides that are out there, because there's whole channels on YouTube that are devoted toward doing guides. There's whole websites like Stella's walkthroughs or, you know, Flextra Life. You know, they work on bringing you that content and bringing it to you quickly. And while CoPilot can't necessarily build that stuff itself, it needs the internet for that. I think it'll be interesting because now CoPilot is going to be able to siphon views, right? Siphon subscriptions, maybe, and take that content and give it to you in a faster, more accessible package. I think because, again, it's just built right into your Xbox, right into your gaming console. And whether PlayStation and Nintendo do this too eventually, I think that's really interesting. So we could be seeing more kind of membership type of stuff, more subscription type of stuff later in the future for YouTube channels, for walkthrough websites and that kind of thing. Because, again, they're trying to protect their revenue and trying to protect that information from AI. Because whatever is publicly sourced, AI can just go for it, right? We're already there with ChatGPT, Gemini, and everything else. And so, yeah, when we start having kind of a little AI on your shoulder to help you with video games and to bring you information as fast as possible, people generally go toward the fastest, easiest access of information or product or service, whatever, even if it is a little bit more expensive. But this sounds like it'll just be a thing for free. So it'll probably start with Game Pass. You know, it'll be a part of your subscription for that. But eventually, this looks like it'll be a free thing that just, quote, Xbox players will be able to have, which, again, is going to be on your computer, is going to be on your phone, is your tablet, your console, whatever you're playing on at this point. And, man, I don't know. I think that's really going to be interesting for these channels and these websites because, yeah, what are they going to do? And then if they paywall their content, well, now all of the people that have been giving them the views and the likes for free and boosting the algorithms for them, well, they're going to quit because it's like, well, now you want me to pay $1 or, you know, $5 a month or whatever it's going to be, and that's going to also cut down on their revenue some. So no matter what, I think this is going to be really interesting, and it's not like this is just going to be, it's, quote, in the works. No, this is something that is actually coming. And I think, too, this can get kind of convoluted for a lot of players because we're also going to have this thing now. It's just like, oh, well, you beat the game. Congratulations. But did you use CoPilot? And so you're going to have this social thing, too, going on with players and with people. Of just like, you know, how did you beat the game? Did you use AI? Blah, 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 all this stuff. But yeah, AI is not going anywhere, folks. I think this is going to be pretty interesting. And then, too, I think it can also take away from the experience. Some games, let's take Dark Souls, for example, the grind and the death and the, you know, your own persistence and endurance is really important to the actual gameplay and the experience. And again, it's not for everybody, but it's not made for everybody. And you don't have to use CoPilot either. But, you know, some people, I feel like, in a way, will kind of cheapen their experience rather than what the actual developers intended. And they'll kind of take that away. So I can't think of a better example right now than that. But, you know, you kind of like... Sometimes it's better to go through the hard stuff, even in life, folks. I mean, it's just better to push your way through, to kind of endure, to kind of just, you know, take the time to grow yourself. But hey, in the you know, parameters of video games here, you're playing the game and you're just taking the easiest, quickest way possible every single time. You're going to be like, well, the game was okay. And other people are going to be like, yeah, man, I freaking love Dark Souls. I love Lies of P. I love Elden Ring. It was so fun because, again, they get that satisfaction at the end of the challenge and the persistence and endurance. And then, well, if you just use ChatGPT all the time as a AI on your shoulder to help you out every time to give you all the tips that it can, you cheapen that experience. So I don't know. I think that's going to be interesting too. But yeah, this will be something that will be coming. We don't know exactly how it'll be implemented, but I will cover it here on the channel. Let's also talk about Xbox Play Anywhere. Now, this is basically a program where, again, you buy the game and play it on whatever you want. Play anywhere, right? At any time, whatever. And basically, you just buy one copy, and that copy can go wherever the Xbox ecosystem is, which currently is, I believe, Steam, Epic Game Store, GOG for some titles, of course Xbox, and then there's also an Xbox app for like your mobile and tablet, and that is going to continue to also grow. So, yeah, buy one game and play it anywhere. That's kind of nice. That's kind of a nice feature. Well, they have over 1,000 games now for that program, which is pretty insane. So I believe the goal, actually, if it's allowed on other consoles, it'll be available there too. There currently is something we'll talk a little bit more about in the podcast about how, excuse me, we just got kind of a mistaken leak by Microsoft on a blog post that looks like we'll also be able to marry Game Pass, the Xbox library, with Steam in the future. Exactly how that looks and what it'll look like, we don't know. We don't have any confirmation or any other answers than just the pictures. If you're curious, they're actually posted on my YouTube channel. Just click on the post tab on my channel, and it's the latest post. Right there, you'll see those pictures. But pretty damning, actually. And the reason that's a big deal is because, well, a whole bunch of PlayStation games are on and coming to Steam, and if you can integrate Xbox and Steam now, which definitely looks like that's a thing, and they're working on that, well, now you can get all of your stuff on Xbox. So that's going to be interesting too. But yeah, Play Anywhere is now 1,000 games, and that is honestly pretty crazy. We also have cross saves, which are just a free feature of Xbox. So again, whether you're doing that through Steam, you're doing that through whatever, as long as you're connected to the Xbox ecosystem in any way through the apps and through the software that are basically free, except for Game Pass, you also have those cross saves as well. So we're kind of turning into this omni-platform. And that's kind of a weird thing to think about. I know some buddies and I thought about it back in middle school and high school, like 15, 20 years ago. Man, I'm getting old, folks, but that's okay. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy to think about that. It's like the omni-platform, and Xbox is kind of starting to turn into that. And it's also forcing other platforms like PlayStation to also go kind of the same route, to make the ease of access easier, to widen or broaden the potential audience for buying games. And publishers, they're wanting to do this too. They don't really care what it's on. They just want their game to be everywhere as much as it can, or to guarantee, a type of revenue that they can actually make. But yeah, this is kind of interesting. So, like, thinking of like Sea of Thieves, or I did look up some of the games that are actually on this Play Anywhere list. Sea of Thieves, Forza Horizon 5, Pal World, Indiana Jones, Subnautica 1 and 2, Death Stranding Director's Cut. That's going to be important to make sure you have the right edition of a game. Age of Mythology, Doom the Dark Ages, and Fable. So those are just a few, and some of these, they're not all out yet, but yeah, think of that. It's like, if you buy the game on the Xbox ecosystem, then basically you can play it wherever Xbox is allowed, and then you also have the cross-save stuff for free. So that's pretty interesting. And then they're expanding into this Stream Anywhere too. So they're also expanding that. Not only is that also a part of Game Pass Ultimate, where you have access to all of these games, which there's over 500 on the console and there's over 400 on PC, Game Pass. You also have the expanding library of just, if you buy the game, you can now stream it wherever you are. And they've already have a workaround for that with Google trying to stop them with their app. It's a stay, so it's not permanent. So they will eventually be able to launch the app that they want. But yeah, now you can just access your web browser on your phone. And it's not perfect, but you can stream whatever games you have that you've purchased that are a part of the Stream Anywhere type of thing. And you don't even need Game Pass for it. It's just a feature that they give you. So yeah, the omni-platform is what Xbox is turning into. And that's just really interesting because, yeah, the hardware doesn't really matter anymore. It's more about, how do you want to experience the game? And you just have to buy one copy, and your save follows you wherever you go. It's just really interesting to actually see this in real time. And then, yeah, if we have that handheld on top of it, oh boy. Yeah. I don't know. I think next gen is going to be really interesting to cover. All right, let's continue. According to insiders, looks like we're actually getting the Oblivion remake not just this year by Bethesda, but actually maybe in a couple of months. So again, heavy rumor, no confirmation. Again, not even a release date or confirmed for this year. But we have some insiders that usually do pretty well at calling out stuff. And it was kind of thought maybe 2026, but maybe they're actually moving that up. But I'm sure, when Xbox has another showcase or maybe even we get to Summer Game Fest, they're going to be sharing about that. So, yeah, to actually get the Oblivion remake, oh, man, or the remaster, whatever it's going to be, I hope it's really good. But I sunk so much time into Elder Scrolls Oblivion. That was my first, Oblivion game. And, oh, man, I'll be buying that right away and playing it. I really hope it's good. I really hope it's good. I hope it doesn't have a ton of bugs. It does make me think, though, about the Sky Oblivion team. So if you haven't heard about them, they're basically a modding community, pretty big, and they're just making a mod for free, and they're making Oblivion, remastering the entire thing to work as a mod for Skyrim. Since basically everybody owns Skyrim, right? Makes perfect sense. Skyrim isn't going anywhere. There's always tens of thousands that are playing at any given time on Skyrim on Steam. And along with probably anywhere else, too, on other platforms. It's all over the place. It's one of the most sold games ever. Also with 5 different editions of the game. Because they remastered it so much, plus the VR version. But yeah, I do kind of feel bad for the Sky Oblivion team. Because they've worked hard on building this. I mean, they have spent, I think, almost close to a decade now actually remastering this. And I think it's all in Unreal Engine 4. Maybe they've converted it to 5. I don't remember. But you can actually cover their team or follow their channel on YouTube. Oh, man, I wish I could remember. I should have looked it up. I apologize. But yeah, if you type in Sky Oblivion, I'm sure their channel will show up. It'll be pretty easy to pick out. But yeah, I kind of feel bad for them because, yeah, they're really, really close. They are, really close. Probably going to be able to launch it this year or maybe the first half of next. They're really, really close. And they have blogs, too, where you can check their progress. And they're always looking for people to help as well. So if that's something in your wheelhouse and you're willing to help, go ahead and check them out. But, yeah, an Oblivion remake, either way, I'm going to buy it. I'm excited. That was what really got me into Elder Scrolls. I like Oblivion more, and even the DLC more than I did for Skyrim. And Skyrim was still pretty good. But yeah, I really enjoyed Oblivion. It was a blast. Okay, let's talk about tariffs. This is something that's been kind of off and on, hitting around, but hasn't made it into the gaming industry very much, and it hasn't made it into a lot of channels either. But I do want to talk about this because this is probably going to affect us. So, the tariffs, basically, we have Trump in office, whether you like him or not, and the tariffs are going up so that he can basically apply some pressure to some other countries and make some of these different trade deals, just like he did the first time he was in office. And then in turn, some of these other countries like Canada, Mexico, Europe, and Japan and China and wherever else, they're all basically raising tariffs too. So no matter what, if it's a physical good traveling from A to B, it's going to be more expensive, right? Whether it's, and it all depends on what it is, generally luxurious goods like video games. So that kind of sucks. So yeah, let's actually break into this. So yeah, it'll be consoles, it'll be GPUs, CPUs, anything for your PC at all, anything physical, so all of the games, because generally they're not made here in the States, or they're not made where you are, right? They're made somewhere else, and then they're shipped abroad on a boat somewhere. Or if you really want to pay a bunch of money, you can ship it on a plane, which, yeah, most people don't want to do that. They just want to ship it on a boat, so it takes a few weeks to get from A to B. But yeah, with these tariffs back and forth, it's really going to kind of create this, quote, trade war that we have. And yeah, some of these tariffs are maybe 10%, which isn't horrible, but some of these are up to 25% or even 50%, depending on the good. Now, this isn't necessarily just across video game in general. It's maybe cars or certain manufacturers of a TV or something, right? Some of these are kind of more special items for the higher end, but still, regardless, the buck will likely be passed on to the consumer. Maybe not right away, but it will actually be here. So if you plan on buying even a Switch 2 at this point, I would maybe actually buy it as a pre-order and then lock in your price. Because if you're waiting to maybe get it later this year, or you're actually waiting to get it next year, or save up some money, or maybe wait for your next tax return. I don't know. Yeah, maybe actually work on buying it now, because even Nintendo has said with their Switch 2, they're trying to get as much stuff into the United States now as they can. They're trying to ship as much as they can, get as much manufactured as they can, because we're going to have scalpers on top of it. And now we got this tariff stuff to deal with. So no matter what, it's going to be mother frickin' expensive, folks. And if you really want to Switch 2 or anything else coming out in the future, I really suggest you just pre-order it. Because now we're stacking inflation, cost of living, tariffs, and now scalpers on top of it. So, yeah, it just sucks. Like, this is really going to start to be a problem. I mean, even trying to find just a physical copy of Liza P when Microsoft took it off of Game Pass, I think it was on there for like 12 months or something. It was on there for a while. But yeah, I did want an actual physical copy, but it was really hard to find a physical copy. And again, there's only so many that are actually made. And again, it's with any physical game, it's with any console, whatever. But it's like, this is going to start to become a problem. And even if you're looking at building something now, like they're going to continue to build more, 50 series GPU cards or whatever else, or even some of the 40 series, like they're going to continue to build stuff and ship it. These tariffs are going to make the prices go up because the material's got to be sent from A to B. Again, they don't even source the material generally in their own country. So you buy it from somewhere, you ship it somewhere else to be manufactured, and then you ship it to where you actually want to sell it. And so by the time you're hopping around the oceans here, it's actually going to get pretty expensive. So this, I hate to say this, and this isn't a guarantee, but this might actually affect the forever price, generally speaking, of $500 for a console. Not just the fact of scalpers or just the fact that inflation is going up. Now we have this tariff thing on top of it. So yeah, we could be looking at like a base price of $400 or more for a Switch 2. We'll see what Microsoft does. We're going to find out on the 2nd when they have their little announcement doohickey thing for that. And then also for the next gen Xbox and PlayStation, or even in the future 50s cards. 50s cards for GPUs have been a total mess. It's already been way higher than what people are anticipating, and then it's been hundreds of percent on top of that for thousands and thousands of dollars just to get a 5080 or a 5090. It's been stupid. So it's like we can't really trust what the price is going to be. I think it's just better to anticipate that the price is going to be higher than whatever we think it's going to be at this current spot. Because, yeah, the tariffs are going to eventually have their effect. It can take months. It can take 6 months. It can even take up to a year because there's some lag time when you're dealing with the size of countries and shipping and material and whatever else. But yes, Nintendo acknowledges that they're trying to get as much out there as they can for actual launch, because yeah, we could just be saying, hey, it's an extra $50, hey, it's an extra $100, and same with the next gen consoles and everything else. So that's just more of a warning to you guys. But too, this could also affect physical games, and we got to talk about this too, because it could also affect digital. Let's explain why. So when you have two different types of mediums for a product, usually there's something called price parity, where one thing matches the cost of the other. Now, these, pieces of garbage, they started with, oh, hey, digital is, quote, cheaper, wink, wink, than physical copies. And then, price parity kicked in after a while, after there was enough adoption anyway, to just say, oh, for movies, for physical copies, movies, games, records, well, you can't, I guess, have a digital record. I guess you could, but yeah, digital music, etc., subscription services, basically the price parity has stayed level, whether it's physical, whether it's digital. And if the physical price of a video game now isn't 70, maybe now it's 75 or $80, that would be exciting. Maybe now, it will actually be a new ceiling because of these, quote, tariffs and inflation and, costs of making the device or whatever. Then they could just turn around for price parity and say, well, yeah, basically we need to keep a, quote, competitive market. And now the digital is also now 75, 80 bucks. I'm not looking forward to that either, but that's also something that I need to mention here on the channel. Something that we need to be ready for, because I miss the days of 60 bucks. You know, it was like that for a really long time. I enjoyed it since the 90s. Think of that. That's pretty insane. 60 bucks stayed around for a while, but boy, we are definitely catching up at this point. And yeah, the tariffs are not going to help anything whatsoever. So if video games are already expensive, expect tariffs to have an effect starting at the end of this year and moving forward to continue to make the prices go up, quote, generally speaking. So again, we have no confirmation on that, but yeah, we will also work on covering that here on the channel. Oh boy, let's talk about Ubisoft. This is going to be great. We're not quite to Assassin's Creed Shadows yet. Again, this is going to be a long one, folks. I hope you guys are ready for it. But yeah, let's talk about Ubisoft. Apparently, throughout this year and even last year, they've been in talks with Xbox, Tencent, and EA to actually sell IPs. Now, this is really interesting. We've already kind of talked about this, but apparently this actually came out this last week. And yeah, from what we know, it looks like the IPs that Ubisoft is wanting to sell are not actually the ones that they've really been working on. So, generally speaking, we think of Ubisoft, we can think of like Avatar, Skull and Bones, The Division, Far Cry, Rainbow Six Siege, which is all they make anymore. I wish they would make some real, actual Rainbow Six Siege game or Rainbow Six games. That would be great. But yeah, they have some others as well. But yeah, this kind of is interesting because they actually have quite a few other IPs that just sit there. They don't do anything. They're not used for anything. There's nothing really in development that has ever been announced over the last, couple of decades. Some of them are that long. And one of them would be like Driver or Good and Evil. It would be great to actually maybe have those. So, again, these are just talks. These are not confirmations that they actually sold anything. But the little guys of the investors, they're kind of frustrated about this because that's kind of pertinent information. Maybe, again, it should not be, quote, public. But, again, kind of investors that have a fairly big share of Ubisoft should actually be told what's going on with the company. So hiding something like that isn't necessarily great, and to find out months or even almost a year later, that's kind of crappy. So it's just more fuel on the fire for Ubisoft's bonfire, and boy, let me tell you, it's getting pretty big. Now, some that they probably would not sell, again, is like Far Cry, Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed. Those probably wouldn't be on the table, at least just yet. If Shadows actually fails, I guess we'll actually have to see. But yeah, they're not having a great time. But to actually sell some IPs they're not using, that would make sense. But yeah, you can go to the Wikipedia, you can pull up their list of IPs that they actually own, and it actually is a pretty big list. Again, you'll read some of the names and be like, oh wow, we haven't seen that in forever. But yeah, it is interesting just to look at. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Someone is actually threatening to sue over this. One of the investors that keeps showing up in the news. I forget their name. Again, I forgot to write it down. I apologize for that. But yeah, that will be interesting if any of them actually sell. I also don't think it's Prince of Persia. Again, they've been continuing on with that IP. We also know there's a Prince of Persia reboot, which is what we were hoping, Lost Crown was going to be. But again, that wasn't the case. And that game didn't sell well. There's also Splinter Cell. We also know that while the TV show / movie, whatever it was going to be, was actually canceled, we still know that they're actually working on a Splinter Cell game, probably to reboot the series. And, man, I just hope they don't mess that up either. I'm so ready for, good AAA games, you know what I mean? Yeah, AA has kind of been my thing lately. But yeah, AAAs, man, I want them to come back. I want them to be great. Let's talk about Intergalactic. So we're actually learning from some interviews from Druckmann. While some of these have kind of been less recent and others have been more recent, there's also been some internal devs, I guess, actually leaving little hints here and there on LinkedIn and other posts. Apparently, Intergalactic, the next big Naughty Dog game that they're working on just for PlayStation, seems like some of the stuff, including the player freedom, was actually based off of Elden Ring. So I think this is kind of interesting because Druckmann was talking about in some of his interviews was kind of the open-ended world exploration, the environment teaching the player, which definitely Elden Ring and Dark Souls do that pretty well. You die a lot. And also kind of this would be a very different approach for Intergalactic as a game than what Naughty Dog has done in the past. Whether we look at like The Last of Us, for example, it's very guided, it's very narrow, there's more story driven, there's more cinematics in there, and they kind of enjoy doing that, but this would be kind of a very different type of game. Now, if this is more like a Elden Ring type of game, I would be more interested in it personally, simply for that fact, because I really enjoy that type of genre, and I have for some time. And it's also catching on more too. But again, not everybody really likes that, so that's probably going to turn off some people that again like the more traditional side of Naughty Dog. But yeah, we'll have to see what they do because this could be a double whammy for Intergalactic as a video game coming roughly 27, 28. Because, again, if it's not good enough as Elden Ring or Dark Souls, then that community's not going to like it. And if it's kind of designed to be like Elden Ring, Dark Souls, well, not everybody likes that either. So they're not going to enjoy that either. So, yeah, I hope they know what they're doing because we've seen some changes in gaming format and game design before. Let's take Tiny Tina's Wonderland, for example, where they, kept the general IP, they kept the voice actors, it looked like it, right? But it didn't play like it. And while it's still technically a Borderlands game and people can enjoy that, that game definitely did not sell like they were hoping for. And now with like Borderlands 4, it's just kind of like, it's Borderlands. It's Borderlands, don't really care that much. And the fact, too, that they really botched the DLCs, in my opinion, for Wonderland. God, I couldn't believe it. It's like, yeah, a 10-minute run, if that, for each DLC. And it's like, we're paying, we're paying like $10-15 for this per DLC. This is ridiculous. This isn't like the DLCs you've done it all before. So they've kind of hurt their, hardcore fan base, and they've also tweaked it way too much. And yeah, it was kind of a mess. Yeah, that was pretty frustrating. And we've been burned before already by a whole bunch of other IPs that should be good. But again, the devs focus on the wrong stuff, or they don't know their audience, or they broaden it too much. And we're just seeing this more and more. And so with Intergalactic, if it's not enough like Elden Ring, or it's too much like Elden Ring, people aren't going to like it one way or the other. And if it's just in the middle, lukewarm is usually the worst. And then you don't have an audience at all. And that sucks. And I feel like that's where Veilguard was. It was so lukewarm in every possible area of the game. It's like, wow, this is not Dragon Age. This is a joke. And I hope that BioWare doesn't do that with Mass Effect 5 either. But I don't know. I've been hurt. They don't have my trust anymore like they did. And I'm pretty much skeptical of everything. Even Night Rain. Even though I really enjoy Elden Ring and enjoy From Software games, Night Rain is a totally different take. I'm glad it's a standalone. But yeah, we'll see how it does. We'll see how people like it. Okay, let's talk about Cronos: The New Dawn. Now, this is a game that was announced last year. We got to see a small trailer for it. Really didn't make a ton of sense, but it is kind of like this futuristic survival horror, right? But it's getting late. It's getting tough to talk. Oh well, words are hard. That's just how it is. And we finally got our first diary from the directors. So this is great. So it did look interesting. It is third person. Again, it's survival horror, and you're basically a time diver, not a time soldier, right? You're not blipping through time as a soldier or whatever. You're more like a diver, so you have some tools, but there's definitely some risk there too, because you are by yourself. Your tools and resources are limited, and there's this kind of like apocalyptic, cataclysmic event that happened, and this is where you're thrust into Cronos. So the inspiration for the game is basically from The Thing, the movie, and also from the Dead Space IP. There's also some very kind of dark side to it, and they've also taken some inspiration from an old time travel TV show. So yeah, this actually, the more I hear about this, I'm actually really excited about this. I'm going to leave the diary in the description so you guys can actually watch it yourselves. The link will be in the description. But yeah, thank you guys for voting on this. I will be reviewing this, and I'm stoked. We'll have an initial look at the game, and if I can beat it pretty quickly within a couple of weeks, then we'll actually have the review and stuff like that, or at least as far as I've gotten in the game, which, yeah, I'm definitely going to take some time to play. And it doesn't look like it's a huge game, but it is made by Bloober Team, and Bloober Team has actually made some pretty good stuff. The last thing that they did, now with them being on the radar, is Silent Hill 2 Remake. That came out on PlayStation and Steam, and then this year, I think September, October, we'll actually be getting it on Xbox. So, might be having 2 games that I'm going to want to be playing later this year. But yeah, I will be buying Cronos on release, and I will be getting that to you guys as quickly as possible. And yeah, once a year, just so you guys know, I put it up to a vote for multiple games, and the one with the most votes is the one that wins, and that's the one I review for the next year. So yeah, last year was Star Wars Outlaws. That was painful. And then this year is going to be Cronos. And yeah, we'll see what next year is. That should be exciting. All right, let's talk about Microsoft again. They had a blog post that showed what looked like the Xbox library and Game Pass on a TV. And when you zoomed in, there was also a tab for Steam. Now, this is really interesting because this is an official blog post from Microsoft that I don't think was supposed to leak yet. I don't think it was supposed to be out there because when The Verge took time to ask about it, didn't seem to be any type of a response, and very, very quickly the blog post was actually taken down, but not before The Verge had actually taken some pictures. And those pictures are posted on my YouTube channel at Gaming Garbage 22. Again, just click on the post tab on my channel, and it's the very first post listed right there at the top. It's the latest post. I posted it yesterday, probably by the time you're hearing this. But yeah, I think that's incredibly interesting because now we have confirmation, maybe accidentally, from Microsoft that we're now looking at a marrying between Xbox and Steam. And I think that's huge because if we're already getting this confirmation, if it's already being worked on to some degree, probably the app or maybe the handheld if it's released this year or next year, ultimately, man, next gen, we're probably going to be having Xbox and Steam library all put together. Maybe even the Epic Game Store and GOG too at this point. And then too, Steam is the biggest place on PC, and that's where Sony's putting all of their stuff because they want to make more money. Why wouldn't they? Who doesn't, right? And yeah, this basically means that Xbox is becoming the omni-platform. It's really, really interesting because the only place left that's really a holdout for Xbox at that point, if we get Steam and if PlayStation's putting their stuff on Steam, is Nintendo. That's really the only place left. So I'm going to be holding my ear very close to this one. If I hear or see anything, I'll be posting it here at Gaming News Consolidated. But yeah, I think that is really interesting. Exactly how it's going to be integrated, when we're getting it, what it's going to be put on first or all at once. Again, we don't know anything else besides that. All we have are the pictures. But it clearly shows that Steam is one of the tabs on there. You have your owned library, just like on your console. You also have Game Pass tab, and then you have the next tab right after that of Steam. So yeah, very, very interesting. Super curious. And again, I do have those pictures, so if you want to, you can take a look. Okay, we're at the home stretch. Thank goodness. But this is a big one. Let's talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows. So it seems to be doing well enough. Right now, the reviewers are saying that the game feels kind of safe. It's what's expected. It allows more optionality for the players. So if you want the game to be less guided, you can do that. If you also want the game to be kind of more guided in its story and making decisions, you can do that too. According to Oh No, It's Alex, we're still waiting to, I think, hear from Digital Foundry, but it doesn't really run too well on PC without frame gen. With frame gen, it passes. Okay, it does fairly well. But The voice acting isn't great. Some of the scenes, too, are pretty cringy and pretty frustrating. The game mechanics are nice for what they are, but some of them aren't really necessary. The game also feels actually pretty easy, so it's recommended that you actually play on the most challenging settings across the board so that you can have a, like, quote, true experience or the best experience that you can, so that there's actually enough challenge there. But again, there are some settings in there to change the difficulty on different stuff however you would like. Currently on SteamDB, it shows 47,000 users so far, which really is not great. Okay, this game is expected to sell millions of copies, and we're going to get into why. Because, yeah, this is definitely a problem. While it may be successful to a degree, this is not great. The same team that made Shadows also made Odyssey, and Odyssey was at a peak on Steam of 62,000. But since then, there's been, Steam has been growing as a store, and so you would generally think that would kind of go up, be above 62,000, maybe at 70,000 or 80,000 or maybe even 100,000, but that's not where that is. So, again, Odyssey's peak was 62. Shadows is 47. That's a pretty significant drop there. So that's not looking great. And again, it's the same studio that made both games. SteamDB currently has an 80% score for the game with 5,000 reviews as of Friday afternoon. The Xbox Store shows 4.5 out of 5 with 800 reviews, though that is skewed some because, again, some people just pre-ordered it and then just gave it a 5 out of 5, so that kind of sucks when they do that. PlayStation Time Tracker shows that Shadows is number 21 in the last 7 days. Again, it's only been out for 2 days, and for it to be at number 21 out of 100 is pretty good. That's a pretty good start. And again, we're not even really to the weekend yet. That's going to be today when you're hearing this, and also through Sunday, so we'll see what those numbers are then. So yeah, with the 2-day launch being at number 21, that's pretty good. That's a good set of numbers on PlayStation Time Tracker. So yeah, when we get to the full weekend, I think it's really going to show a lot on Steam. See what reviews are showing up for Xbox and also PlayStation Time Tracker for PlayStation. But again, regardless, I don't think this is really enough for Ubisoft. I think it will sell enough. I think it will sell millions of units. They did say that they had a pretty good number 2 for pre-orders, which was 300,000. But again, they also gave the incentive of the first DLC for free, which they did not anticipate that, so they lost some money on that already. Because again, they wanted to boost the pre-order sales. But yeah, this is where the problem is. So there's really not much after Shadows. So Shadows has to perform. Let's talk about what they have coming up. Skull and Bones will have its second year of content, which is not great. Most people, I don't even think, really play that anymore. Prince of Persia is coming 2026. Far Cry 7 has been delayed, is not coming this year in 25. It's coming again in 2026. And then there's no word still on the Splinter Cell game. And that's really it. Like, we don't have anything else for Ubisoft that's really coming forward. So yeah, this game has to perform. And not only with that, excuse me, not only with that, also, let's see, I had it listed here somewhere. Well, I'll just run it off the top. Oh, here it is. They had Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora. That didn't sell enough. Star Wars Outlaws definitely bombed, which is why they delayed Shadows in the first place, which, not even to mention, that was another 25, 30 million out of their pocket for just delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows twice. So they still have to make that back. And then also Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That didn't make money either. Even though it was a smaller budget, it still, was rated pretty well. People didn't buy the game. Ubisoft, it wasn't the game we wanted. Okay? For Pete's sakes. Pay attention to your audience. Outlaws did not perform well. Again, a lot of stuff wasn't in there that we expected from an open world game. Skull and Bones. What the frick are you doing? That's not quadruple A. It probably cost enough with an estimate of $650 million at a minimum because you've made it for 13 years. What the frick are you people doing? And then we have Shadows itself, which again, is not doing great. So it's like, okay, not only do they need to make up for some of these other games, Shadows also has to pay for itself, which again is hundreds of millions of dollars. This is a big AAA game. So the development cycle has been huge. The marketing has been pretty insane. I'm seeing it all the time. Even today, for Pete's sakes, on Friday. And then they have to make up for lost revenue with these other games that failed. Avatar, Outlaws, and Lost Crown. I mean, I don't see how it's going to work. Oh, shoot, I forgot to pull that up. Let me do it anyway. Here it is. Perfect. Okay, let's take a look at this. Now, this is TradingView. This is not a promotion or anything. This is just who I use, but this is a free tool you can use to look up any company, any ticker, anywhere in the world, and basically get some information about it. Okay, so this is on a day scale, but let's go back, because I really want to show this, because I think this is important. This is the last 12 months. It's not great, okay? They started pretty low. We had a good peak. Stock price went down. It recovered. Imagine, that was like Siege and other stuff, because, again, Siege came out in 2015. We also had some other pretty good revenue build up here. This would have been Valhalla, and then it's just been down ever since. And now we're even below with where they launched at. That's horrific. And we're almost back down to the very bottom. So, yeah, this is not good, folks. This is really not what you want to see. Oops. Now let's go back and let's take a look at today. And let's widen this back up again. Because I want to show this too. Because, yeah, this is not great. Let me change my indicator here. Let's see, bars there. Here we go. Here's area. Well, it's not quite what I want either. Man, where is that? I don't know. It's been a while since I've used this. Anyway, we'll just use this. Now, taking a look, okay, this was leading up to the launch, right? This was halfway in March. Well, this actually was supposed to be when the launch, roughly. The launch was supposed to be back here in February. Right. Let's see, when was it? February. Sorry, this is such a mess, folks. Oh, well. Launch date was roughly supposed to be right here. See how it's kind of been trending down. Oh, Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to come out. It's just been going up ever since. Well, they delayed it. Okay, the stock continued to go up here. Not a ton, basically from, $12 up to $15. So not a lot, but a fair percentage. And then now it's like, okay, well, there's some issues cropping up. There's some other problems. Well, this was the 18th. This was Tuesday. This is 2 days before launch. And then the 19th. And then we have, the Thursday is missing there for whatever reason. That's ridiculous. But yeah, let's go back to... Let's go to the hour. And let's go back to the candles. Give me these ones. That's still not great. Still not doing exactly like I want. But yeah, the thing, we'll just go back to this. The thing that I think is crazy is, like, we're seeing these big spikes, but again, the confidence is not great. Because just before the launch, they also had the whole game leak too, by the way, for PlayStation 5. This was back here. But yeah, it hasn't been great. And so, again, they've basically gone from their $15 down to $13.50. And it's not really recovering. And this is just before the launch. And as we've had the launch, it's still not really going anywhere. So the investors aren't super happy. They're not confident about this. Unless there's some big boost or whatever over the weekend, or there's good news next week, or maybe even through the rest of this month. Again, I don't even think the investors are confident about this or excited about this. And yeah, I kind of think that's an issue for Ubisoft. because again, they need to be able to make money. If we take a look at their investments here, again, this is all just on the fly. Sorry about this. And again, they do roughly every 6 months. They don't do every quarter or 3 months like a normal company. But we just take a look at their annual revenue. Okay, it's not great. -7, 4.5, 4, -27%. That was a good year. 6.8. Like, this is not great. And again, their revenue is high, but they're just not making good margin. And when we take a look at their financials here, let me see if I can find this quickly. Nope, wrong one. They're kind of keeping up with their forecast so far, generally speaking. Is it their statement? I think it's their statement, yeah. But like, this is what they've been dealing with already. The yellow bar is what's important, okay? Negative net income, that's not good. So they're not making money. Negative net income again, not making money. They're positive for that 6 months, which was $200 million, okay? But again, they had $1.6 billion almost come through the door. They didn't make a lot. And then we have negative income again. Again, this is 2 full years here of data that we have on their company. And they just don't have a lot. They are hemorrhaging money. Stuff is not selling. Siege is not selling enough. This is why they added their subscription program and all of this other stuff. And so, like, in my opinion, Ubisoft has to do, Shadows has to do well. Otherwise, again, they're not going to be making any money. And I don't see how they can continue as a company. And this is probably why they're in talks in the past 12 months, roughly, to try to sell some of their IPs they're not using. Because, again, it's like their other games didn't do well. They haven't been making money as a company. They've been tanking as a stock since 2020, since Valhalla, basically. That was a $1 billion game. Congratulations. We'll also have Siege that is also made almost as much as all of Assassin's Creed put together. Again, congratulations. But they can't keep putting out more games that are bombing and crashing, and again, that are more generic and casualized. Okay, people want unique gaming experiences. That's what gets them excited. And again, you put the player first. Now, there's some changes to Assassin's Creed Shadows compared to maybe some previous games that are kind of more player focused, where the player has more control. They have to pay more attention. Like, you can't just get on your horse and just yeehaw, right? The game doesn't take you there for you, okay? Like in Mirage, you actually have to guide your horse and actually go from A to B. I think there's still fast traveling and stuff like that. And again, I'm not saying I played it. I haven't. I got a buddy that did pre-order it. He's going to be picking it up pretty soon. And he did tell me I could actually work on playing the game some for my channel. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Shepard. But again, it's like with what we're seeing so far with the reviews, what we're seeing with the stock price for the investors, and even with hearing that, Ubisoft has delayed this twice now, because again, this was supposed to come out in November. The fact, too, that they're trying to get more pre-orders through the door with giving the first DLC for free, this is just not working. Because again, they need to make so much money to make up for those other losses with those other games that they've had. X-Defiant is another one. They closed that last year. So it's like, come on, guys. We're talking about their last 5 games that they've made. I'm not including the NFT ones because those are just garbage and trash, and they don't probably expect to make too much anyway. But Ubisoft has a real problem because they don't have a lot of cash left. They don't have a lot of money. And technically, while they're valued, their IPs are valued at like $7 billion plus, they're worth $2 billion less as a company. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And the Guillemot brothers, they're totally crashing Ubisoft into the ground, and I don't see how they can make it. So either Ubisoft has a fail as a company, in my opinion, or they have to allow a buyout. And those are really the only 2 options. Again, the Guillemot brothers and Ubisoft, they're going to do everything they can to keep the company going, just like any other good CEO would do. But man, what else other options do they have left? Nobody cares about their games. Nobody really wants to play them like they did. They have basically diluted every single IP they ever had their hands on, and there's a lot of other IPs they don't even utilize. And again, continuing to play the safe bet of pumping out just a whole bunch of Assassin's Creed is not what we want. It's not saving anything. Mirage did pretty well, but again, wasn't great. Hex was VR, so that failed because VR is not selling in itself. The hardware is not even selling, so that didn't go anywhere. And then Shadows isn't being where it needs to be. I mean, I think Shadows at a minimum needs to make like $600 million. When we start factoring in Avatar, Star Wars Outlaws, X Defiant, Skull, excuse me, and Skull and Bones. So yeah, what are they going to do? There's not a lot of options left on the table. And I don't see how Ubisoft can make it through this year without actually selling some part of their company. Now, again, I think they will sell IPs first that they're not utilizing. They will sell some other IPs that maybe they don't care about as much. And they'll hold their closest ones to their chest. But eventually, I think they will fail as a company. Because the leadership is just crashing it into the ground. So yeah, it's a slow burning bonfire. And a lot of the decisions too for Shadows, people are just staying away from it simply too because of that. I mean, it's just had bad press for over 12 months now. There was also bad press for multiple months for Star Wars Outlaws. There was some bad press for Avatar, though I actually think overall it did pretty good. But even with all of the good press that Prince of Persia Lost Crown had, it wasn't enough. So yeah, I think it's possible at the end of this year we could actually see Ubisoft have to sell something. Because with the launch numbers that we have of Shadows, PlayStation Time Tracker, I mean, it doesn't have the numbers that it needs. And that's a really big problem. And I think, too, there's a lot of people just sitting in the lawn chair, enjoying the fire, watching it burn. Because, yeah, they have screwed their players so many times. So many times. Bad releases, high microtransactions, crappy DLC, delays. It's a problem. And they have like 18,000 employees globally. So yeah, there's got to be some changes somewhere because they're expensive to run. So yeah, that'll be really interesting. I'm almost out of water. Last thing I want to talk about is PSSR 2.0. So this has come out in the last couple of weeks. Didn't get too much attention. A few people talked about it. But some people are saying that, PSSR is actually finished. It's done. Because Sony's going to focus on FSR, AMD's FSR 4.0, which AMD said that they're going to come out with that. But what we did hear from Cerny is that AMD and Sony actually had a collaboration. And out of that collaboration came FSR 4.0, which is actually pretty good according to Digital Foundry, and also PSSR 2.0. So that doesn't mean that PSR is going away, that Sony is ditching PSSR. They just worked with another company that's been doing upscalers for a while, probably at a cheaper cost than what NVIDIA was, so that they can make their next version better. That's all. That's all it is. Some people are like, oh yeah, dude, PSSR is done. The Pro is a joke. I kind of still think the Pro is a joke. Yes, I agree with that. $700 without a disk drive for like, ooh, the blade of grass is more crisp. Like, that's not really what I want, right? Or slightly better frame rate. While some games are better, devs also have to learn how to implement and use PSSR so that their game can actually utilize it the best. And some games haven't looked great. Some devs have actually pulled it, like Bloober Team for Silent Hill 2, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, hopefully with PSSR 2.0, this is actually going to be better. And again, I think Cerny already learned, hopefully, that they need to put their technical foot forward to actually help the devs. Because if you're just kind of putting out something and, hey, good luck, figure it out, well, that's not great. You really need to utilize that. So hopefully with PSSR 2.0, that's actually going to be better. PSSR 2.0 is going to be implemented for sure in the next gen consoles, but if we're hearing it already, it might actually be put out as a patch, quote unquote, for PSSR 1 that we already have, maybe within, this year or next year. And yeah, FSR 4.0 is also probably going to be on PlayStation and Xbox. We already have 3.2 on Xbox, and we already have 3.1 on PlayStation. So PlayStation is interesting because now they have their own PSSR, their own upscaler, and versus AMD's. And then if they have a collaboration, well, of course, FSR 4.0 is probably going to be better because AMD has more experience. They've also been working on kind of, if you will, leveling up their upscaler for a longer period of time. And yeah, PSSR is really kind of behind the ball and to some degree, and hopefully 2.0 is better. But again, we don't have any idea when that's going to be implemented, if it is better or whatever. But 4.0 already looks great. And there's also DLSS out there, which I don't think is available anywhere else besides the graphics cards, which makes sense. But DLSS does have some of that, or I should say, Nintendo has that NVIDIA integrated hardware for the Switch 2, and Nintendo did update one of their upscaler patents in December of last year. So maybe Nintendo's going to have an upscaler too that's going to be built off of DLSS. Maybe there's another, quote, partnership going on to actually make an upscaler for Nintendo. But that has yet to be seen, and we'll have to see. But that's just kind of my hypothesis. But yeah, PSSR, it's not going anywhere. It's just upgraded. That's it. And, for the channels that are misleading their audience, again, shame on you. You shouldn't be doing that. Why are you? It doesn't make any sense. Cerny didn't say it's going away. PlayStation hasn't said it's going away. Sony hasn't made any kind of a statement that they're dropping it. It's just, there's a partnership, with AMD, and so that means that Sony is dropping PSSR. No, they're not. They're keeping it. It's going to stay there. It's going to continue to evolve and develop. And that's all there is to it. So thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always follow me at GamingGarbage22 over at YouTube. You can also follow me over at Twitch if you want to get everything there first, though it does definitely look better. There is more editing. There's a thumbnail, all that good stuff over at YouTube. So it's a little prettier. But again, it's generally the same type of content. So, and thank you guys, too, for also being patient while I did have 2 weeks off for vacation. Almost 3 now. Actually, boy, my vacation has been incredibly busy, and it's been hard to actually keep up with anything. So yeah, I'll just admit it. It's been hard to keep up with everything. It's been a mess, but that's okay. I'm still bringing you guys content. When I actually go back to work, I'll be set in a normal kind of schedule again, and yeah, the content will start rolling out like it was before. So thanks for hanging in there. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys on the next one.